you want to turn me as a host, if you need help, I could help you.
Okay, we are now live. We will call this meeting to order at 2:34. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Parker, VPA of Mighty City College, and I will be representing Dr. Shabazz, President Shabazz, this afternoon for our College Council meeting. We appreciate you being here, and thank you for joining the Zoom meeting or online via YouTube. College Council is the highest level of government at the college where we convene the leaders of our various constituency groups, who I will be introducing here shortly. College Council provides an opportunity to present and discuss updates. Should you like to address or present an item, you may bring forth to College Council by emailing the President's office to either Janelle Rodriguez or President Shabazz, or by working with your respective representative, who I will have the pleasure of introducing now as we start off with roll call. Paul Alexander, past President, Academic Senate.
Here.
We have Aaron Deddy sitting in for Tilly Chavez, Vice President of Instruction.
Present.
Robbie Ewell, Chair, Institutional Technology Council.
Present.
Cesar Gumapis, Information Officer.
Present.
Jocelyn Hill, Supervisory Representative. No Jocelyn. We have Nadia Mandalawi. Sorry if I chopped up your name, Nadia. President, Chairs Cabinet. Susan Murray, Dean, Institutional Effectiveness and Chair of IMPROC.
Present.
Masa Omei, Administrative Representative.
Present.
And we have Victoria Owusu, ASG President.
Present.
Marciano Perez, Acting Vice President, Student Services.
Present.
Sean Ryan, President, Classified Senate.
Present.
And Darius Spearman, Interim President, Academic Senate.
Present.
Excellent. Thank you all. The first item of business is approval of October 12th meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve October 12th meeting minutes? Assuming there is no discussion or changes. Anyone, motion to approve October 12th meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Marciano Perez. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rob Ewell. Second, Dean Ewell. Second. Any further discussion regarding October 12th meeting minutes? All in favor, please indicate by raising your physical hand, your electronic hand. Thumbs up. There we go. Thank you very much. And anyone who would like to abstain or oppose? We're good to go. Thank you. If we may note, Jocelyn Hill has just joined as well and is present.
Yes, my apologies. I was in another meeting on campus. I do apologize.
No apologies or explanation necessary. We are all in a multitasking environment. Thank you for joining us. All right, first item on the agenda, we do have Dr. Letty Lopez, Acting Dean, to present on the update of the science building. Dr. Letty, are you ready? Do you have your PowerPoint queued up?
I do. Thank you very much for having me here today. Hope you all hear me okay. Just a thumbs up, John.
You're good to go.
All right, great. Thank you all for having me here on behalf of all faculty and classified professionals who use the S building. I'd like to bring the matter of S building closures and evacuations to the attention of College Council today. Let's start the slideshow. All right. So a little bit of background. Since the fall semester started, and I started my acting assignment in July, but since the semester started, I've documented about 7 incident reports in 8 weeks regarding HVAC shutoff issues, fume hood alarming, that resulted in building evacuations. So just a little bit of history. The S building primarily consists of lab classroom spaces for physics, geology, geography, chemistry, and biology. And these lab classroom and prep spaces require specialized safety equipment called fume hoods. This generates a pressure differential, so that fume hoods require additional HVAC systems that supplement the normal air handlers. So I'm just like reading this, but I think it's important to put this in context so that we have this also as documented history of what's been going on. And I'd like to really thank my sources here who've provided a lot of this historical information that kind of led up to the reason why we're here and discussing this and seeing how and why we've come to this juncture. So since the S building was commissioned and built in 2014, the HVAC systems, including the system that supports the fume hoods, had been regularly malfunctioning. So then the question is, what does HVAC malfunctioning mean in the context of our S building? So when the HVAC system malfunctions, we're experiencing air in the fume hood that vents back into the classrooms. And the filtration systems that were installed to filter out the SARS-CoV virus, they don't work when the HVAC system is down. We have also special airflow systems which vent the air in anatomy classrooms, lab classrooms on the 4th floor. And the fumes from the solution that preserves the 8 cadavers in the building make it difficult to be on the entire 4th floor. Keep in mind all that the fumes sort of dissipate into other areas. Therefore, it's necessary to evacuate the building when the HVAC system malfunctions. So, and what does this mean in the context of these, 10 weeks of the semester? For about 8 weeks, over 8 weeks, I've, like I mentioned, submitted 7 incident reports of disruption in teaching and learning and safety issues regarding that we're experiencing in the S building. So in the first 5 weeks of the fall semester, we've had to cancel or reschedule 16 lab sections across 3 STEM disciplines. They were canceled, losing over 40 hours of instructional time for over 100 students. In one biology lab, we lost over 4.5 hours of instructional lab time that its sister sections didn't miss. This is creating a large gap for instruction for those students, and this time cannot be made up, or it's very difficult for the instructor to come up with lab time that was ideally designed for being face-to-face with those students. Another challenge that we've experienced is that we don't have a high-quality evacuation plan in place when this happens. So people are getting left in the building, left behind in the building, without being informed of closures. This, when I'm working from home, sometimes I'm getting the messages a little late on my cell phone when I receive text messages of building HVAC issues. Therefore, I'm just coming in person and reporting to work 4 days a week. At this point, sometimes 5 days a week. So sometimes I do sweeps of the building, or I communicate with the ILTs and they do sweeps of the building so we don't leave anyone behind during the building evacuations. And also, instructors are informed in different ways about the policies. And in the past, what I've discovered is that some instructors do not cancel classes and do not evacuate the building because they don't want to lose valuable instructional time. So, as of the start of this semester, how have we addressed this? So in my case, I've looped in our instructional lab technicians, chairs, the VP of Admin Services, VP of Instruction Facilities via text messaging and emailing once I'm notified of HVAC and fume hood alarming issues. So Again, when the HVAC goes off, the fume hood alarms on the second floor all start alarming. And I liken it to what one of our ILTs described it as whack-a-mole. Sometimes you turn off the fume hood alarms in one lab, yet they come on in another lab. And then when you turn them off there, or mute them rather, they turn on in another lab. So it's difficult to and challenging at best to address. So I've submitted these incident reports and escalated them to President Shabazz. Our ILTs communicate with our chairs and faculty who need to move the wet labs to other dry labs as needed. So the action plan as a result of these multiple incidences include the following. Professor Heather McGray presented this to Academic Senate in September, as did our ILT Erica Zhang to Classified Senate. As of the start of October, President Shabazz and the work group has been meeting monthly to address this. One of the outcomes being that we've created a share drive called S Building Health and Safety. It serves as a repository for all historical and current documents, such as what are our standard operating procedures? Where are our chemical and biological hygiene plans? Where do we store injury and incident reports? Another outcome is that we are set up to hire an ILT. And we've also been updating our FF&E and work order list to see what other areas need to be addressed in the S building. As a result of a lot of dialogue and situational awareness, Chancellor Cortez did a site visit and he toured the building last week. Additionally, as a result, I've had 2 consultants out to not only do a walking tour of our building and check out our fume hoods and understand what the issue at hand is, but we've also signed consultant agreements with them, and we requisitioned 5-year contracts with both Pneumatic Engineering, who installed our fume hoods, as well as AABC Inc. to do various testing. So Pneumatic does the calibration of the fume hoods, AABC does the certification of the fume hoods, as well as certification of our biosafety cabinets and other equipment. They are expected to start next week. We also have started a biweekly work group where our professors, Kojima, Professor McGray, our ILT, Ed Sebring, myself, and Vice President Parker, we discuss, and one of the outcomes of these ongoing meetings is to review these chemical hygiene plans, biological hygiene plans, and also discuss the hiring of a chemical hygiene officer specific to San Diego City College. Ultimately, what we're asking for is for college support to engage sustained resources needed to fix this problem and to address this so that we don't need to keep escalating it to these levels. I think awareness is crucial. As mentioned, we've shared this at Academic Senate, Classified Senate, and now at College Council. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dean Letty. If you have a question, please join in. I just wanted to thank you for taking the lead on this in the past several weeks. As you mentioned, it was pretty disconcerting, along with other issues that we have not talked about here, but we'll leave for another day. But as Dean Letty mentioned, we had the Chancellor here, President Shabazz, and Tilly, including Marciano, have walked the building several times. I have a standing bi-weekly meeting with your ILTs and Dean Lopez as well. And we are taking this very serious. In fact, just signed, it might have been last week or yesterday, a 5-year agreement with Pneumatic Engineering. So they laid out a plan for us in addition to the calibration. It's called a laboratory recommissioning program, Lab RCX. So that's a 5-year program for us where they'll come in They'll do the calibration, they'll do the verification. They'll perform device by device inspections. We also have AABC, who will be working in tandem with Pneumatic in certifying and inspecting the hoods. And in fact, AABC started last week. Was it with the biochemical? I'm sorry, cabinets.
Biosafety cabinets, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the biosafety cabinets. And that did not require a competitive bid. In fact, none of this required a competitive bid due to the urgency of this issue. It's all time and material, which we have provided funds for. Letty, any other updates? Or sorry, I see Jocelyn, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I have a question. So was this issue or thing that you guys discovered was just geared because you have the hoods in this particular building, or would this potentially affect other buildings?
That's a great question. What's happening is it could have been triggered by the COVID shutdown and less use of the HVAC, or not being placed at or put at certain levels over the 18-month closure. So as we started having more face-to-face classes, we have 140 students in the building across 15 sections, and that's not at capacity. We're just getting ready for the buildup for spring. But having this number of incidences in such a short period of time really had me pump the brakes really on bringing everyone full force back in spring until we get our house in order. Until we address these issues, I don't feel comfortable bringing faculty back the way we're intended to do come spring. I've expressed this to the chancellor, I've expressed this to our president, and I feel supported in that, and our faculty also feel supported in that. I mean, their health and safety come first. So once we address these HVAC issues, and as long as we don't have any more HVAC turning off or HVAC sensor issues that trigger the fume hood alarms going off in these labs, then we'll feel more secure in the sense that the building is safe to use.
Okay, thank you for that response. And now I'm going to pivot and put it in the court of John, or maybe even Tilly. Have you guys, do you know if this is just geared towards because they have hoods and they have the labs, or is just the HVAC system on the entire campus?
I will jump in before you, Dean Lopez. This is relegated to the science building. It's not ubiquitous. And to answer your question there, it is both a hood and an HVAC problem, as those are two separate systems. And these are the Cadillacs, if you will, the Rolls Royce of HVAC systems for this science building. It costs millions of dollars for the mechanicals. There are several components. The two salient components are the mechanical systems, and then you have $1 million in control systems, and they require different engineers to troubleshoot and fix either one of them. As Dean Lopez mentioned, we are looking to bring on a chemical hygiene officer. Unbeknownst to me, I was the de facto chemical hygiene officer at the time, and in meeting with Letty and her team, we recommended that it not be someone who could do it part-time as a side gig, in which case I would be doing. So we're recommending bringing someone on full-time to handle. It's a huge responsibility, as you can imagine, and it would take hours to get up to speed. We do have the plan. However, I did not realize that the plan was not approved. It did not get final approval from the district. It was submitted to the district, but we didn't receive the final approval when it was sent up in December of 2017. I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you both.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much Dean Lopez, and forthcoming updates at future meetings as we progress. And can you remind me that when is pneumatics? And you may have mentioned this. When will they be? They're working.
As soon as we get the PO number,
Okay.
they're supposed to start next week.
Okay, we'll work on expediting that.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, we will defer to Vice President Tilly. She'll present item 2 and 5 together, correct? And I will proceed with item number 3, which is SB 169, a housing grant. You may or may not be familiar with SB 169. It's the affordable student housing grant. It's essentially $2 billion over 3 years, of which 25%, I believe, $500 million is allocated for fiscal year 21-22, ending June 30th, 2022, and $750 million for the 2 subsequent years. 50% of these allocations are allocated to community colleges. We have a deadline of October 31st, which is this Sunday, to submit an application. It was a pretty aggressive schedule, about 3 weeks at the time that we received the application to submit to the state. It is not an RFA. It's a different application. We're using a budget amendment form that I can't find somewhere here on my desk as a makeshift application. And we had the good fortune of working with our R&T architects already with our facilities master plan under the auspices of one of their partners who actually wrote a housing grant in the past. In Northern California, we were able to mobilize resources from our facilities master plan team, R&T, to help us write this grant and get it submitted by this Sunday. We've also received several letters of support from some of our local partners who work with our veterans, our Next Up program, our social justice program, and CalWorks as well. And we're soliciting a letter of support from our local state representative, Chris Ward's office. What we are proposing is the old CDC site at between 16th and 17th C and B. The old building is still standing, so it would include the demolition of that building. And the preliminary design at this point, everything is preliminary. There are actually 2 applications that we're applying for with this SB 169. One is the planning grant. That includes what we're doing right now: feasibility studies, engineering studies, cost estimates, architectural plans, permitting, bonding, site prep, all of that. And then there's the actual construction. The planning application is not as involved as the construction application is. There's a lot of narrative studies, performance. We have renderings from R&T. So right now, the conceptual rendering is to provide approximately 525 beds for our student housing. There will be a pantry, actually a food pantry, food services. It'll be a food pantry. We're working on what this should look like, but we want to address 2 things: the affordability, so housing insecurity, and food insecurity in our application and in our design. So approximately 525 beds, a combination of single resident occupancy units and family units, up to 4 beds in the family units. So we'll have a pretty robust package to submit by Sunday, and we feel pretty good about our chances. The awards will be announced in March of 2022. And another tight deadline is we have to have shovels in the ground by December 31st, 2022. It's a little aggressive, but very doable. It's going to be an all hands on deck effort, but I'm very excited about this prospect. something that we've been needing for a long time. And I know the President Shabazz and our constituencies here have been advocating for it. I believe, if my research is correct, there are only 2 community colleges out of 116 in the state that have student housing. I think the newest one being Orange Coast College in Orange County. Any questions regarding SB 169? Okay, great. Again, updates to follow once we do have the application submitted this Sunday. We've been meeting almost every other day with district architects. We have a representative from State Chancellor's Office, R&T, and locally here at the campus. So this has been our priority and will be for the next few days. All right, on to our next item, item number 4. Accreditation update. Dr. Susan Murray, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. Just want to share a brief update on our timeline. Many of you were aware that we had our initial training from ACCJC on the institutional self-evaluation report process, or ISER process, on October 1st. Thank you to everyone who turned up. We had nearly 30 attendees from City, in addition to another 8 or so representatives from our district office. So that was a great turnout and sets us up well to move ahead with this timeline. We are in the fall of year 1, and what we will be working on in the near term is setting up the writing team structure. We have been working with our accreditation committee to create some guidelines and job descriptions or role descriptions for the various roles that we have on the writing teams. We'll be meeting with the faculty leadership next week to clarify how faculty involvement is going to work. And then those groups will get started with identifying evidence and understanding the standards and starting to develop the content of the report. We're also working on a timeline with the district, along with our sister colleges, Mesa and Miramar, who will be going through the same process, to align the timelines for the district's contributions. The district isn't accredited on its own, but because of our centralized responsibility for finance and HR and some other functions that are addressed in the accreditation standards, there's going to be some back and forth. And so we're setting up some common check-in points. And then in between those, each college will have its own process. And the ultimate goal is here. August 1st of 2023 is our due date for submission of the ISER. Our team visit is not until the spring of 2024. And there is a larger gap by about 6 months in between turning in the report and actually having the team visit. And that is due to changes in the ACCJC's process, where the review team will look at the report much farther in advance of the visit, and that will limit the scope of the visit. They will not be considering all 4 standards and all of the sub-elements of each standard area during the visit. They will, based on their review of the report and evidence that we submit, they will only identify particular areas that they want to focus on during the site visit. So that's a big change in the process. It means that the ISER is due earlier, but the trade-off is that the visit is much less, it's much more predictable. I'll use that word. We will have lots of information in advance about what the focus and substance of that visit is going to look like. So to help us prepare for the next steps, Marco Anzuris, our faculty accreditation coordinator, is going to be hosting some information sessions. Look for this information to be coming out via email in the next day or two, along with our announcement about recruiting for the writing teams. We will be sharing information and setting up these opportunities to ask questions about what to expect, what kind of time commitment is involved, and how we will work with the different constituency groups to ensure good representation in the process. So that is the update for accreditation, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Susan Murray on accreditation? All right, well, thank you, Dr. Murray. No small tasks there for shepherding this process. Okay, I would like to move to item number 2 now, back to item number 2 and number 5, which is the update on AB 927, Community College Baccalaureate Programs. We'll have Vice President Tilly Chavez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, John. And I don't know if you had the PowerPoint or if I have it. So let me just give me a second here. I think I may see if I can share screen.
Do you have it up? Okay.
Let me see if I can get it going. Are you able to see my screen?
You're good to go. Thank you.
I'll see if I can move it from there. Thank you, everyone. President Shabazz asked me to come by and just give an update on where we are with our baccalaureate program. And this would be our Assembly Bill 927, which was signed by Governor Newsom about 2 weeks ago. I think it was maybe 3. And so the exciting news that now at a community college, we can offer some baccalaureate programs. And just let me know if my slide is not moving. Okay, John? So I just thought I'd give you all a little bit of where we've been and where we are. So over the past 2 years, right after I first came here, I was charged with the idea of how do we get the programs coming forward? And I think it might have been back in about 2004-ish, somewhere in there, that they did the pilot, and it came from Mesa College had put through a pilot program to try this out and see how it would work. And I think it was under their health information management program that they provided. So with us here, we were looking at how do we get a program ready to roll? And so we had looked at different types of applications. Threw an application together. It took almost an entire year to go through academic senate, classify different areas for people to look at it. It was really difficult. It was difficult because people didn't even know what they should be looking for, what they should be asking for, because we've never done it before. Sure, Mesa did it, but it was a pilot. So how do we know where we need to be? So some of the things that we looked at, we did get an approved application. And then I took the application with me to the curriculum committee because this is going to heavily involve curriculum. And when we went back to the curriculum committee, they didn't really feel comfortable being the committee that says, hey, yes or no, and how does it work? But we ended up looking to see if we could come up with a group, and I'll talk about that group momentarily. Well, what we continue to do is this last May of 2021, we sent a call out to all of our constituents here in the campus and say, hey, do you have programs? Anybody's interested in coming in for a baccalaureate program? We had about 4 programs that were interested that attended the meetings. And then as we started to look at the application, we said, what's this application we have here? It really wasn't useful. It had a couple of things that we were trying to target, but what we did is we revamped that application. And actually, it's an ongoing revamping of an application. You're going to say, well, but why? Because where we are now, we've gone back to the curriculum committee. Believe it or not, through the help of Academic Senate, we've been able to identify a BA/BS work group. And these are faculty members that are identified to be part of that group. Along with the faculty is going to be the Dean of Curriculum, which is our own Dr. Shelley Hess within our district office. She was working on this project when we helped with MESA back in that time. And then myself. So this work group is really, really there to try and help to make sure we put forward the very best proposal possible for a baccalaureate program. We want it to be the #1 in the state. We want it to be #1 in our district. Because I don't really know if the district's only putting forward one. We don't know these details just yet. And so that's kind of where we are with that piece of it. Now, what are the next steps? The next steps is we're waiting. And this is the hard part, is to wait. The governor signed the bill, but now we need a timeline and guidance. Looking at the previous, we thought we were going to be able to put 2 programs a year, 1 each semester. We don't know. That still hasn't come out from our state chancellor's office. So it's kind of silly for us to do so much work and then kind of backtrack and come back again. So we're kind of playing a little bit of a waiting game. However, we've been doing some work in the meantime. So we have the chancellor's office guidelines and timeline we're waiting for. And then before we get to the part of doing the recommendation, we really want to make sure that it's going to be the programs are going to be successful. We want to make sure they have some type of feasibility studies done, the labor market, everything is there. These programs also have to be workforce related. So we had several people that were interested in all kinds of humanities, other types of things, and then realized they're not the kind of programs that would be okay. And then there's some strict guidelines. Can't be duplicated in any of our university programs in the region, outside, and there's just a lot of work that has gone through that. So we have a couple programs that have been doing some work. I also want to say that any faculty that are truly interested in doing this, it's a lot of time and commitment to curriculum, making those changes, keeping on top of it. And eventually, when we get to the part of having our guidelines and our timeline, we'll be able to bring forward some recommendations here to College Council of where we think we need to go. And whatever we put forward as a recommendation, program A, that's not the end of it, because the purpose is that this is supposed to be continuous. It's not a pilot like it was before. So what I would love to see is that we start getting people ready and lined up and knowing, kind of like a sequencing a program of, in a program saying, oh, my program is going to go in fall of 2024. My program is going to be ready to go in spring of 2025. It'd be nice to be able to see if we came up with those many that would be ready to roll. We'll just wait and see what happens with that piece of it. And really, I know that's pretty simple, but I just really want to see if there's any questions right now on this piece. I might have simplified it too much. There is a lot more details involved. A lot of individuals, what I would like to say, and then I'll answer your question, is that I think people feel that we've already made a decision on what programs are going forward. If there are, I'm not aware of it personally. I've only seen a couple of different programs that have come through saying that they have an interest, but I haven't seen any proposals all the way because we don't have that information. So I just want to make it clear that we don't have one set program right now that we're putting everything in and saying we're going that way. Letty?
Yeah, no, you pretty much answered the question already, which are some of those programs that put their hat in the ring.
So, and I have to be careful how I say them, because how I may know them, they have to be very much so they're not duplicated. One of the ones we've had through our cybersecurity has been trying to come forward, and it looks like a really good program in there. There's also Sean Bacon's program that also with our our graphic design type stuff with that. There had been conversations at one time with Justin Bond with our air program, HVAC. It's not at that level where it needs to be, but it could be someday. There are some others that people have mentioned before. Nursing has been one that is always mentioned, but it's not one that currently would meet the criteria because it would be duplicating what's already being offered. But I still have hope someday, especially now with the way times have changed and nurses moving on to other careers, that they're going to be finding such a demand, they might make changes in that. You never know. Did I answer what you're asking? Other questions?
All right, no other questions for Tilly. Thank you, Tilly, for presenting AB 927. And is there an update on the promise opt-out, or is that to be tabled?
I can provide a real brief one on that one. I think it was the same week that that the governor signed AB 927, was the same week that we had a presentation at this campus from our CRC, Consumers River College. And they provided a program for us, a presentation on the opt-out program. That's what they call it. We're looking at something like our Promise 12. We have a program for our Promise students. They have to required to take 12 units as it is. And really, this CRC opt-out program, they use all students coming into the college, brand new students, all have to take 15 units. 15, you heard me, 15 units they have to take, and they have to opt out if they choose not to do that. They have found some really good retention information, some data that they've been looking at. They've been doing this for a couple of years. They came and talked to us about how they did it, what kind of resources are needed. And so we have that. Caesar was able to create a video for us, and we have that available. We've also are working with a team that is going to be writing a concept paper about this program and how can it look, what can we do at City? Would it be something that would be similar to like the Promise 12? And then what kind of programming would we offer? What kind of classes? And it's really not giving students that opportunity to be that cafeteria choices. It's really more of here's what you get, here's your schedule type stuff with you look at it that way. Could it be something with an evening program? Maybe a weekend program. So I'm just throwing things out there right now. It's very much the team needs to get together and write that paper. And if you're interested, please send me an email and let me know that you want to be considered on that. I'll drop my email again in the chat, but definitely we have a couple of people that are working on that as we speak. But definitely I'm open to other people to help us out. Any thoughts or questions, concerns? I know it's a lot, 15 units. That doesn't mean that's what we're going to do. It just means that we're looking at their processes, how they did it. What can we learn from them?
Excellent. Any questions for Vice President Chavez? Very well. Thank you again, Tilly, for your updates. Moving on to item number 6, return to campus planning for spring 2020. I'll probably go out of order here a little bit, but vice presidents, feel free to jump in, chairs and deans as well. I hearken back to Chancellor Cortez's email. I think that was the beginning of October. It might have been the first week of October regarding, well, we'll jump to fall since we're in fall, November 1st as the effective date that most employees will be required to return to on-site work. He actually outlined an urgency to re-engage students who were unable to participate in online instruction throughout the pandemic and were underserved by remote operations. All managers and supervisors should have provided schedules to their teams as of October 18th for the November 1st. So let me back up a little bit. When I say expected to return on November 1st, that is 3 days per week. If you recall, previously the edict was up to 3 days a week, which was pretty much a loose interpretation, which could be 0 to 3 days. So now it is a hard 3 days per week. So those schedules should have been distributed to your teams as of October the 28th. Please ensure that they have them as soon as possible. If you missed that deadline, I know I did with a couple of mine. In terms of spring return, Non-instructional services and work assignments will return to pre-pandemic operations in many areas, the operative word being many areas. However, the district continues to work with collective bargaining and participatory governance regarding flexible workspace policy that will increase options for remote work for many positions. I'd also like to add that we are working overtime, and we are starting to gain some traction now in terms of preparing the facilities, the classrooms, and working spaces for a full return. In the last week, we've delivered upward of 50 air purifiers. We have 100 more units of plexiglass that are on order. We brought in extra pallets of PPE. You'll see throughout the campus that a lot of spaces will be replete with campus ready, mask required posters that we're asking all deans, managers, supervisors to post these posters on restrooms, hallways, classrooms, offices, even elevators. We had a meeting today and review of services regarding elevators. Going forward, if we cannot post them on the elevator doors, the interior or exterior part of the doors, the interior walls are okay. We've had a couple of issues with 2 elevators where we had to call out a maintenance company. It triggers something with the sensors and folds the paper, and the doors start to malfunction because they're taped to the outside doors. Other than that, everything else seems to be fair game. They do not adhere to concrete. These are adhesive, removable adhesive posters. Again, if there's any need for plexiglass purifiers, PPE, please route the request through your deans to me, business services, and we're working pretty much every day to deliver items. And we still have water. Actually, we were back ordered on the water for a while due to supply chain issues, but we do have a couple of pallets actually of water for students and employees. Any other updates from deans, VPs regarding return to campus planning for spring 2022? And this is as of today, guys. We've been in this long enough, for going on 2 years now. It could change at a moment's notice. I do realize that the infection rates are declining in the district, throughout the state, and here at the college, but we keep an eye on those, a close eye on those. In fact, we have a district COVID advisory meeting in the morning, in which I hope to provide additional updates thereafter. Anything anyone would like to add regarding reopening? You guys are too easy. This is good. All right. Any updates from any of our members of College Council for the good of the order? And I see a question here in the chat regarding the 6-foot social distancing decal stickers in our office spaces. Good question. Please forward a request to Jay Purnell, his team in facilities. And if you could copy Dina and or Ginger, they will come and affix those, sorry, to your floor. We have upwards of 600 or 700 of those. So they're around maybe 8-inch 6 feet social distancing decals that go on the floor. Good question. Please send that email and we'll have those affixed right away. Okay, as we were, I'm sorry, any updates from members of College Council for the good of the order? No hands, questions, chats? All right, good deal. Well, it was great having you all, great seeing you, and thank you for attending. That concludes College Council meeting. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much, all. The meeting is adjourned at 3:24.